All right, so get this. We're diving into something pretty wild today. You know how they say think outside the box? Well, researchers are taking that to a whole new level, potentially using a common gym supplement to treat, get this, a serious liver condition.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing.
Cirrhosis. In the UK, we're talking about something like 60,000 people dealing with this.
60,000.
Right.
It's a huge number, and that translates to a massive strain on the healthcare system.
For sure. Think about the fatigue, the weakness, just the overall feeling lousy, all those folks struggling to just live their lives. Over 75,000 hospital admissions each year, just in the UK because of cirrhosis. And the cost...
Just 17 billion pounds annually.
17 billion. Just for the NHS to manage this, it's clear we need some fresh approaches, right?
Absolutely. And that's where things get really interesting. The current treatments, they mainly focus on managing those symptoms, trying to make people feel a bit better. But they don't really address the root cause, the liver damage itself.
So what's the game changer? What's got everyone buzzing? HMB. Okay, back up for a sec. For those of us who don't spend all day at the gym, break it down for us. What is HMB?
HMB, or hydroxymethylbutyrate, if you want to get technical.
Let's stick with HMB for now.
Sure. It's usually found as a supplement, the kind of thing you might see people taking to help build muscle. But now
they're thinking, hey, maybe this can help with cirrhosis.
Exactly. And it's not just a wild guess.
Right. There's actual science behind it.
Yeah, there's a whole clinical trial going on. The BOOST study, big players are involved too, like Plymouth University, Southampton, even Imperial College London, and the funding.
Okay, spill the beans. Who's backing this up?
The National Institute for Health and Care Research, so you know it's serious.
That's impressive.
Yeah, they don't just throw money at any old idea.
Yeah.
This has got to have some real potential.
Yeah.
What really struck me, though, is how much they're emphasizing patient involvement.
Patient involvement, meaning...
Like people who actually have cirrhosis help design the trial. They're part of the team, making sure the research focuses on what matters most to them.
Wow. That's a great approach. So it's not just scientists in a lab, it's the folks who actually live with this every day having a say. That makes a lot of sense.
Right. It ensures the research is grounded in the real-world experiences of those it aims to help.
Absolutely. And speaking of real-world experiences, one of the team members, Leslie Manning, she had a liver transplant herself.
Oh, wow.
And she's been vocal about just how tough it is to live with cirrhosis and how desperate the need is for better symptom management. Her words really hit home. She said, living with advanced cirrhosis is very debilitating. It makes you feel like you have no energy or strength, and there are no treatments out there to help manage your symptoms. Really powerful stuff. It's a constant struggle.
It really highlights the need to move beyond just reacting to the complications of cirrhosis and start focusing on improving the well-being of those living with it.
So how does this HMB thing even work? I mean, muscle building and liver disease seem pretty far apart.
That's the fascinating part. HMB. In simple terms, think of it like a building block for muscles. Technically, it's a metabolite of leucine, an essential amino acid, and it's key for protein synthesis. That's how your body builds and repairs tissues. So traditionally, it's been used for muscle growth, preventing that breakdown that can happen as we age or when we're sick.
Okay, so we've got this muscle-boosting supplement. How on earth did researchers make the leap to the liver? That's quite a connection.
It is, right. The exact mechanisms are still being investigated. But some early studies suggest HMB might actually have some pretty powerful effects, anti-inflammatory and anti-fibrotic. And with cirrhosis, it's the inflammation and the scarring in the liver that really cause the trouble.
So if HMB can somehow put the brakes on that inflammation and scarring?
It could potentially slow down the disease or at least help manage the symptoms.
Not a magic cure, but...
Not about magically regrowing liver tissue.
More about making life a little bit easier for people who are dealing with a lot.
Exactly. It's about managing the damage that's already there and trying to prevent things from getting worse.
Okay, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this BOOST study. How many people are involved? Where is it happening? And what are they actually looking at?
Well, they're aiming to recruit 124 patients with cirrhosis from 8 different hospitals across England.
8 hospitals. That's a pretty good spread.
Yeah, it's not just concentrated in one area. They'll be closely followed for 24 weeks total, with 12 weeks of taking either HMB or placebo twice a day, and then another 12 weeks just for follow-up. And here's the really cool part. They're not just looking at liver function.
Oh. What else are they looking at?
They're using something called the Liver Frailty Index.
Liver frailty index. Okay, that sounds pretty intense. What is that?
Think of it like a bunch of tests to see how strong someone is, how well they can move around and function physically.
Because people with cirrhosis, they often have muscle wasting and weakness, right?
Exactly. It's a big problem. Affects their everyday lives. So they're not just focusing on the liver itself. They're looking at the whole person. How are they functioning in their day-to-day life? How's their quality of life? How's their mental well-being? All these crucial things that often get overlooked when we just focus on the physical symptoms.
So it's not just about numbers on a lab test. It's about how someone is actually living their life.
Precisely.
Okay, let's say this boost study is a home run. It works amazingly well. What would that look like? What could this mean for people with cirrhosis?
Just imagine a simple supplement, something readily available, making a real difference in people's lives, helping them regain their strength, making everyday tasks easier. Just giving them a boost in their overall quality of life.
And maybe even slowing down the disease itself. That would be huge.
It's definitely a possibility that researchers are excited about.
All right, before we go any further, you mentioned something earlier that piqued my interest. You said they're including hospitals in some more deprived areas. Why is that important?
That's a key part of making sure the study's results are relevant to a wide range of people. By including hospitals in areas where cirrhosis is more common, they're ensuring the findings are applicable to everyone, not just a select few.
Cirrhosis does tend to hit harder in lower socioeconomic groups, right?
Unfortunately, yes. Things like alcohol misuse, poor diet, limited access to health care, all those things can contribute to higher rates of cirrhosis in these communities.
So by including these hospitals, the researchers are making sure the benefits of this research reach those who need it most, regardless of their background.
Exactly. It's about addressing health disparities and ensuring that everyone benefits from advances in medical research.
I really appreciate that approach. They're not just focused on the science, they're thinking about the social impact as well.
It's a holistic approach, taking into account all the factors that influence health and well-being.
Well, this has been quite a deep dive so far. We've gone from the basics of HMB, something you might find in your gym bag, to the intricacies of clinical trial design and the importance of patient involvement. It's incredible to see how something as simple as a dietary supplement could potentially have such profound impact on a complex condition like cirrhosis. What other surprises might be in store for us? Stay tuned because we'll be back in a flash to continue our exploration.
Back again for more on cirrhosis and this whole HMB thing.
Yeah, it's funny. I keep thinking about it, this idea that a simple supplement, something you might see at the gym, could help with such a serious condition.
Right. It really makes you think about where solutions can come from.
For sure. So we've talked about HMB, the boost study, all that. But what's the big picture here? How big of a deal is cirrhosis in the UK?
Oh, it's a major problem. Cirrhosis is one of the leading causes of death and disability here. And it puts a huge burden on the healthcare system. Remember those 60,000 people we talked about?
Yeah.
That's not just individual suffering. That's over 75,000 hospital admissions every year.
Wow.
And a whopping £17 billion annually for the NHS.
Okay, those numbers really put things in perspective. It's not just about finding a treatment. It's about finding a way to help a lot of people and save a lot of money.
Exactly. And it's not just the financial cost. It's the human cost. Cirrhosis can lead to all sorts of problems: fatigue, weakness, jaundice, fluid buildup, even internal bleeding. It's a tough disease to live with.
And like we said, there aren't a lot of great treatment options right now.
That's what makes the BOOST study so exciting. It's a completely new way of thinking about managing cirrhosis.
A new way that could make a real difference in people's lives.
Potentially, yeah. Even if HMB doesn't completely reverse the damage, if it helps people feel better, manage their symptoms, have more energy, that's a huge win.
And that's why it's so cool that they included patients in the study design.
Absolutely. Their input is invaluable. They can tell the researchers what matters most to them.
Speaking of which, we mentioned Leslie Manning earlier, the liver transplant recipient who's on the project team. What exactly does she do? Why is it so important to have someone like her involved?
Well, Leslie's role is to be a voice for the patients throughout the study. She makes sure their perspectives are considered every step of the way, from the initial design of the trial to how they interpret the results.
So it's not just about having patients in the trial itself, it's about having them at the table, guiding the research.
Right. Patient representatives like Leslie bring such a unique perspective. They understand the day-to-day challenges of living with cirrhosis in a way that researchers and clinicians might not.
It's like having an insider's view.
Yeah, exactly. It helps the researchers ask the right questions, focus on the things that really matter to the patients.
Okay, so we're all rooting for this HMB thing to work. But research can be unpredictable, right? What are some of the challenges the BOOST study might face?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is recruitment. Finding enough people who are eligible and willing to participate.
Especially with a complex condition like cirrhosis. It's not always easy to find people who fit the criteria.
And then, even if you find them, there's always the risk that they'll drop out of the study. They might experience side effects or have trouble sticking to the treatment plan or just lose interest.
So it's not just finding people, it's keeping them engaged.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's the possibility that the results won't be what everyone's hoping for. H&B might not be as effective as they think, or there could be unexpected side effects.
True. It's important to remember that not every research study leads to a miracle cure.
But even if the BOOST study doesn't produce the results they're looking for, it will still contribute to our understanding of cirrhosis. It will help scientists identify new avenues to explore.
So even if H&B isn't the answer, the study itself can push the field forward.
Absolutely. That's how science works. It's a process of trial and error, and every study, whether it's successful or not, brings us closer to finding effective treatments.
Well said. I'm really struck by how dedicated these researchers are and how innovative they're being. What are your thoughts on the long-term impact of this research, even beyond the BOOST study?
Well, if this works, if H&B proves to be safe and effective, it could have a ripple effect throughout the medical community. Imagine new treatment protocols being developed, people living longer and healthier lives. It could even spark a whole new wave of research into how H&B works and how it can be used to treat other conditions.
It's amazing to think about the possibilities.
It is, isn't it? This is groundbreaking research, and I'm excited to see what comes of it, no matter what the outcome is.
Me too. Before we wrap up, I want to come back to something we touched on earlier, the fact that they're including hospitals in deprived areas.
Yes, that's a really important part of the study design. It ensures that the research is relevant to a diverse population, not just a privileged few.
It's about making sure that everyone benefits from medical advances, regardless of their background or socioeconomic status.
Right. We know that cirrhosis disproportionately affects people in lower socioeconomic groups due to things like alcohol misuse, poor diet, lack of access to health care. By including these hospitals, the BOOST study is directly addressing this disparity.
It's a powerful statement about the importance of health equity.
It's about recognizing that everyone deserves access to quality health care and the benefits of medical research.
I couldn't agree more. It's so refreshing to see a study that's not just focused on the science, but also on the social and ethical implications.
It's about doing research that's both rigorous and responsible, with the ultimate goal of improving people's lives.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from the basics of HMB to the complexities of clinical trial design and the importance of patient involvement. I'm so curious to hear your final thoughts on the potential of HMB and the broader implications of this research. But first, let's take a quick break. We'll be back in a jiffy to wrap things up. And we're back. Had some time to process all that info about H&B and cirrhosis. What a wild ride. What's your big takeaway from all this? What's the one thing you really hope our listeners will walk away with?
For me, it all boils down to one thing: challenging assumptions. We tend to get stuck in these ruts thinking that solutions will only come from the usual places. But this BOOST study, it's like a breath of fresh air. It's saying, hey, let's think outside the box.
It really makes you wonder, what other possibilities are we missing?
Exactly. We got to cultivate that curiosity, that willingness to try new things, not just in science, but in every aspect of life.
And let's not forget, this isn't just some abstract scientific pursuit. It has the potential to touch so many lives, people struggling with this really tough disease.
That's the heart of it, right? The human element, to give people back their strength, their independence, their joy.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's your final message for our listeners?
Stay curious. Keep asking questions. Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo, to explore the unconventional. You never know where the next breakthrough might come from. Maybe it'll be one of our listeners. Who knows?
I love that. This whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener. If something as simple as a dietary supplement could potentially help with something as complex as cirrhosis, what other hidden gems are out there? What other seemingly unrelated things might hold the key to tackling some of the biggest health challenges we face? Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey of exploration. Keep those questions coming, keep that curiosity alive, and we'll see you next time.